Sawubona,
Yeah.
you creative visionary. I am Temi Buthelezi, Chief Visionary Officer of Future Gen Leaders and the founder of the Future Gen Leaders Foundation. Today, I have my beautiful brother, my handsome brother,
All right.
and he is live with us from California, and I am in Asia. The last time I was in America and you were in Asia. Now this time you're in America and I'm
Right.
in
Yeah.
Asia.
Yeah. We're moving around. So you have been moving around. I've been here. So stuck.
How are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm all right. As you know, just the typical the typical COVID-19 life here. But also, although it's almost over, but still, just regular paces. Everything's all right. So
So the last time I was speaking to you, you were talking about how you had started doing yoga, and
yeah.
yoga was really helping you through the transition of COVID, coming back from China, going to the US, and then getting stuck during COVID. And yoga was a really great
Yeah.
way to clear your mind. Tell us more a little bit about your yoga experience.
Right. Always wanted to do it, and never really. I'm not particularly a very flexible person, so whenever doing yoga, it's actually more challenging than probably to me than running a marathon. To be honest, doing
Why?
doing 1 hour yoga is actually to me is more painful running than running an hour. You know, so for a lot of people, when they run for an hour, that's pretty painful, right? That's a long running, very lonely, and it takes a lot of strength and endurance to do that. I can honestly tell you, I actually literally compared. I could run for an hour and be relatively feeling easy about it. But when I was doing yoga for an hour, I am all soaked, and it was awkward and a painful experience. So I just want to tell you, yeah, I just want to tell you, doing yoga was not an easy thing for me. Although I always know that I always like whenever I went through it, I always liked the what I got out of it or how I felt after I did it. In general, what I'm looking for yoga is just some time to kind of quiet down or be a little bit, peace down, both physically, maybe not physically, especially mentally. But yoga in general is not fast paced, right? So you just kind of go through slow motions of things. I think that provides the kind of rhythm I needed. I definitely wanted to be a little bit at peace, even though in the mind there are lots of things racing, in all directions. I particularly need that, especially when people are in relatively. Think about this: when you are put into isolation or by yourself. In theory, I mean, on surface, that should be the time you should be very quiet and peaceful. But I think for lots of people, that's right the contrary. That usually is a time you start going crazy in your mind, right?
Why are you going crazy when you're put in isolation? I thought.
Because you see, the reality is most people, I guess, less so for people who are good at meditating. Most people actually, when they engage with other people externally, they actually are able to kind of focus on things that keep their mind sort of like certain things. They don't necessarily over start thinking too many things, right? And they don't have all kinds of thoughts start really working on themselves. It's actually a lot of time that's why people like to say, hey, I want to keep myself busy, I want to keep myself on certain things. But when you are sort of relatively isolated, or particularly, I mean, using the typical word, right? Lonely, in a lonely state or a lone state, that's where it takes strength to go through that, to be happy and content going through that. Most people, we all know that most people are not very good at dealing with loneliness because
Hold on. Let's talk about that. Because you and I can talk for 5 hours and then I forget.
yeah.
Loneliness. Why are people afraid of being alone?
Uh, the way I look at it, and this is completely from how I think about it or how I got it. I think it's all about what you have in your mind and in your heart, ultimately. Because when you're lonely, most people, I think regular people need to connect with other people to feel certain things, right? To feel existence, to feel, for instance, their presence, their existence, or to feel love, or to feel some kind of connection. I think as a human nature, that's very normal expectation or desire to have. But when you're in loneliness, a lot of that are just going to be cut out. So then it really gets to a point whether you can still maintain relatively happy, content, and also sort of a feeling not empty instead of feeling full while you're with yourself. Now, how do you do that? Because for most people, the way that they feel fulfilled or they feel like they mean something is really through association with their surroundings, right? Through other people's acknowledgement, adoring or admiration. A lot of that would keep people sort of feel like, okay, they are filled with joys, they're filled with accomplishment. But
who taught us this?
Huh?
Who taught us this way of thinking?
I think that's just in general. That's a human society. As a human society has been like that because we grew up not by ourselves. We grew up, going to schools. We go to work with other people, and I guess I would think, yeah, you don't want to be too lonely. I think, right?
No, I actually love being alone. That's why I live in the jungle, Hari. I love it.
But in normal sense, that we often say, oh, okay, don't be too lonely. But why? And the fact that we're talking today, especially where you are, and from where you are, we're talking about this topic. You would think why many people, after they go through certain stage of their life, they are seeking loneliness. Why they're seeking that? In theory, I mean, people shouldn't like loneliness, right? Because you wanna hang out with fun people. You want whether you don't have to be a party person, but you want to hang out with people, or even intellectually sort of inspiring, stimulating experience with others. So usually before any I guess in the way I look at it, before you can actually sort of control yourself or build up yourself to a point where you can accomplish a lot of that with your inner strength, then you really have to rely on a lot of external sort of association in order to deal with loneliness. Then you would find out many what we later on call strong people or mentally strong people. They could go through loneliness as if like they just live through a crowd. It wouldn't be so much different.
Yeah, I love it. I love talking to trees. I love talking to birds. Exactly. I love the quietness.
Exactly. That's because you find peace with yourself internally, right? And your joy and your sense of fulfillment, your sense of accomplishment, or even your sense of association with the world, really comes a lot with the way that you connect with your surrounding. Not necessarily with lots of people. You can derive joy out of even talking to a fish, right? Looking at the water.
Yes.
Yeah. Or just sitting under a tree and feeling the breeze. All of that, I mean, for it only takes certain people to truly feel it, the way I look at it, to truly feel it and actually be energized by it and also be feeling relaxed about it. But many people, you put them into this environment, all they would feel is like, man, this is boring. This is boring. I don't think I like this kind of life. you would think. But either way, everybody has their place in the world, right? You can't
Yes,
expect that.
yes.
You can't expect that everybody all of a sudden all become super spiritual. Imagine if everyone in the world is spiritual, what the world is going to be like.
It's going to be amazing. We can talk to trees and birds and fish and oh
That
my God.
no, I think that I mean I guess the human race is designed in the way there are all kinds of variations and the behavior. I think if we are all spirituals, then we could reach a point that we start ignoring the importance of physical existence. Then we would begin to try to annihilate each other. And let's say, let's all go to the spirits. We don't need this damn physical bodies anymore. Then that's when people start killing each other.
Yeah, but like, look, there was only one Jesus, one Buddha, one Allah. It's not.
See, the way you say it, there is only one Jesus, one Buddha, one Allah, but they all being considered as a god for certain crowd of people, right? For
Right.
certain people, I think, and I guess a different group of people find a way for their spiritual connection. Some related to religion, some doesn't have to, right? But it doesn't mean that they're not spiritual. For instance, what we just talked about is highly spiritual, and for a lot of people, and the fact that we can talk about it and at least carry on this conversation, I think is because we understand each other what we're talking about. But I'm sure if you talk this to maybe somebody in a kind of different walk of life or different life experience, it's gonna be like it's literally going to be like you talking to a tree. The tree may not respond to you very, very.
No, the trees talk. I'm telling you, like when I talk to trees, the trees talk. They actually answer me. I swear to you. But like I sound crazy, but I don't really care anymore. But the trees talk to me. Okay, so was COVID a lonely experience for you, or was COVID?
I think yes. I know. Yeah, I'm sorry to because
Sorry.
I know what you were going to ask, right? Yeah. Back to the topic why I was doing yoga and how. And I said the yoga kept me sort of like in a certain rhythm where I can feel like at peace and also feel a little bit healthy. Because during the early part of the COVID, I guess before we really know what it is, a lot of time you try to stay in, right? You literally are isolated from at least physically from outside world. And for me, actually, although in the past, as you know, for most time, I have people around me. I deal with people. I enjoy being with people. I like the introvert people. I think I actually usually get energy from the crowd because there's the introvert and extrovert. Introvert people like to stay away from crowd because if they go into the crowd, their energy is being taken away.
Right.
For extrovert, if the moment you go to the crowd, maybe before you go in, you're tired, but when you come out, you'll be super energized. You get energy from people. In general, I tend to believe I belong to the latter one. But now I'm not sure which one. To be honest, I'm not sure because.
I thought you were an introvert. I really thought you were an introvert because you would spend hours by yourself in Shanghai.
Exactly. But I can always spend hours with people and also enjoy it. So at this point, I think there's one thing if I should be pretty happy is I think I'm fairly balanced. I can be with myself, I can be with people, and either way, it wouldn't be so much different to me. It wouldn't be. Unlike some people who are used to dealing with lots of people, if you all of a sudden you put them into some sort of isolation, they probably got depressed, right? They probably get somehow they will feel like they're out of place or out of rhythm. But I found out when I'm mostly with myself, I get on with my things, I can still keep a good pace, and I actually enjoy the time where there is no distraction of other energy to me, and it's a very, very peaceful. And doing yoga is a little relying on this a little physical challenge because, as I told you, if it's when I was doing yoga, even like the downward docking, the downward docking, right?
Mm.
Even that, I mean, for lots of people, that's easy. For me, man, after 30 seconds, uh, I would start sweating, you know. But now I got a lot better. So at the beginning, it's all about, I guess, the muscle if I'm using it. So by doing this a little physical challenge, that keep, first of all, definitely, you know, that keep like would keep myself busy. And of course, over time, I become it's going to be good for your body, right? Then also good for your mind because when you, as we all know, when you go through yoga, your mind are mostly single, very single-mindedly. You don't have all kinds of thoughts jamming your brain, right? I think for anybody to stay calm to stay sane, the first effort is to get rid of lots of thoughts in your mind. Give your mind a little break. And that is particularly hard for me because
I like that. Okay, so hold on. You said give your mind a little break. How do you do that?
I mean, I guess for most people, you do meditation. That's what meditation is about, right? Meditation is the basic. You know that full well. The starting, the initial meditation practice, kind of usually is asking you try not to think, try to keep your mind quiet, and even though you cannot do it, then try to do some kind of breathing without thinking anything, without even thinking about what you're thinking, right? But that's extremely hard. I remember I was years ago. I was trying to do that. I was kind of reading a book about how to do meditation, and the book said, yeah, it's gonna be tough, but you don't have to overstress to it. But try. Maybe you can count numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the beginning, and see how many numbers you can go through without your mind wandering away, right? And you probably do that, and that's going to be tough. I usually cannot go through 6 or 7. My mind would already start thinking about something. If not about something, then I will be thinking about this. I'll be thinking about, wow, good, I'm not thinking about something. See?
That's why I was like, I said to you, I was like suggesting you go to Vipassana meditation. You know, the 10-day meditation that's silent for 10 days and you don't speak.
Remember years ago you were suggesting me to that. Do you still remember how I reacted to it, right? I said,
No.
I mean, I cannot talk to, there's no phone or anything. I cannot talk to anybody for what? For 10 days? Then the next question is how many people actually stay through it? I also ask how many people actually kind of go crazy after doing that. Because at that time, maybe at this particular time, I feel, honestly, if you ask me now, I probably feel easier for me to go for it. Back then, when we were in Shanghai, when you're talking about doing something like this, that's nearly impossible. I said, unless you point a gun to my head, if I don't go, you're gonna kill me. Then really, I don't have enough motivation to do that, because the thought of doing that for 10 days without talking to anybody, I cannot imagine how it feels like. I cannot back then, because every day back then we're like non-stop, right? We always have something going on, and they always something maybe interesting or fun, right? So for us, that's how things should be like. What is wrong breaking away from that? Why wouldn't want to be like this? Because it does keep you active, it does keep you positive, it does keep you happy. Why do I want to all of a sudden stop myself from doing all of that and just go through this seemingly, inhumane, very
Oh, check them.
very unhumanly practice. Why would you want to do that? Most people, I can speak for myself. At that time, I just, maybe for you it's like, hey, you know what, Andy, look at me, I've done it once or twice. It doesn't make a huge difference. But don't you realize now in life, through your dealing with many other people also, I'm sure, and you know that I also go through other people, don't you realize this is a typical scenario where people actually don't really listen to other people?
Yeah, I have noticed that. But I usually just think, okay, they're not ready. When they're ready, they'll come back.
I think that's not because of people. For instance, when you're telling me I'm your best friend, I appreciate that, first of all. Definitely, I'm not saying okay. You're trying to. And I also know you're trying to get me to do something you think that's going to be great. And even though I think there must be something in it that I don't know, that could be something that's good for me. Even though I know all of that, but think about that. Then, have you ever wondered why do I not find enough motivation to do that? And you're a friend. I like to believe, and you have experience that you use your personal experience already showed me this is good. At least it's not going to be bad, right? And it's not so much about like the time that, or maybe even the travel to go there. It's really about the motivation. I can honestly tell you that that time, knowing all this right reason, I still don't have the right motivation. I don't have strong motivation of doing that. Have you wondered why?
Tell me why.
I mean, take a guess. I mean, what do you think? I have my guess on it. I want to
Hmm.
kind of be. Let's
Okay,
maybe.
so I was thinking, as you were saying, that the outside world was more exciting than the inner world. You hadn't explored the inner world because you were still attracted to the outside world, because that's the programming we've all gotten. The outside world is what you're going to get your excitement from, right?
Right. Yeah. I think no. This is how I after through. That was like years ago, right?
Yeah.
Now, as of today, I think I reached this kind of notion. At least you can call it my personal understanding. This scenario, this situation about the individual's motivation of doing things, where that's coming from. All of a sudden, I realized, you know, um, benefits or see you told me about lots of benefits, right?
Right.
About what that. So benefits and the merits and the good things usually are not strong enough motivation. That's kind of contrary to most of the things. Even in normal life, usually you think, oh, I give you something, you would be motivated to do it, right?
Oh, you weren't in enough pain. Until you're in enough pain, you have to have shock and enough pain where you're like, okay, I can't take this in. I cannot.
Here you go. Here you go. Now I realize the true motivator is really pain and suffering. That, yeah, the pain and the suffering is going to push you to go to the opposite direction. Because for instance, if you have a good time, how much more good time you can have, and you can have more, and you just live with it. But guess what? About pain, suffering, human nature, regardless what kind of from using what method or what reason, human nature is going to try to get away from pain and suffering as fast as possible or as far away as possible.
So we're addicted to either pleasure, and we're always averse to pain. That's why we bounce between pain and pleasure all the time. Whenever
Yeah,
we experience pain, we're like, give me whatever it is to get out of this hell. And then
yeah,
we run to the pleasure side. So if it's meditation, yoga, whatever, just give it to me. I just want to get out of this hell.
exactly. So my motivation for you is just taking the small things. Then why I wanted to do yoga, because I'm here, and then I feel like doing yoga makes me feeling also a little bit of exercise and not feeling so sort of a tied up, also kind of tied up here every day, and give you a little motion. It's not that I cannot go outside. I can still go outside, right? But this whole thing almost becomes like every daily ritual of following a certain kind of a challenge or routine. And by going through that, that gives you a sense of engagement, whether it's an engagement with others or engagement with yourself. But it's all about, you are going for something that's not easy. If everything is easy, you get bored, right? If you're constantly, in other words, yeah, I mean, right? If you're constantly in a happy, easy life, guess what? Pretty soon you will feel bored of that. You almost want to go out of it. Why? Think about it. Everybody, I mean, that's just the human nature. I think that is why, for anybody to come to a certain kind of spiritual level, usually joy and happiness doesn't quite get you that far. It's the pain and the suffering that's going to get you deeper get you realize, okay, a lot of things go beyond, what go beyond whether it's a happy, it's going to be very crowded, or whether it's a lonely experience, or it's going to be happy experience, or it's going to be a painful experience. Eventually, then once you reach to a certain kind of, a mindset or spirit, then you deal with either situation with a relatively uh, similar.
Equanimous mind.
Yeah, you basically you're becoming a little bit more. I'm trying to find the right word. You're becoming more condensed and less distracted. Less
Equanimous mind.
Okay. That's the okay.
That's what the Buddha said. You have to have an equanimous mind. An equanimous mind doesn't seek pleasure. It doesn't have aversion towards pain. Whether you are in pleasure or whether you are in pain,
Oh,
you're
you know
just
what?
stable.
So,
Equanimous mind. That's what I
so
kept telling you. Going to Vipassana, go to Vipassana meditation. This is what I learned. Equanimous
no.
mind.
But Tammy looks like I didn't even know. I guess I goes I today whatever I'm saying is purely coming from my life experience or my life, what do you call that, awakening, whatever that is.
Right.
I didn't try to read lots of book. I never really try to seek the formality of sort of whether it's a Buddhism or whatever. Although I do believe in, things spiritual at a spiritual level, I do believe what they are preaching or what's in their principle, but I never really have the term you just said. But did you realize what I was saying? Kind of, is that the meaning?
Right.
Is
That's why I could give you the word equanimous. You had to go through your own equanimous experience. Sorry, I have mosquitoes like trying to bite me. You had to, this is jungle life. You had to go through your own experience of going through the equanimous,
Yeah.
through the pain, through the pleasure, through the pain, through the pleasure, until you got to the point where you're like, oh, equanimity is what the true life is. Just
yeah,
equanimous.
that essentially you reach to a state of presence or existence where you're less fluctuating by circumstances, right?
Right.
You're less fluctuating by circumstances, by surroundings. You'll be relatively zoning in who you are relatively stably. Instead of like for a lot, another extreme would be called bipolar, right? Bipolar, deep in the bipolar. I think that's the extreme version compared to the term we're just talking about. For bipolar, they're like one moment they're like this, another moment they're like that.
Yes.
But I think for a true happy and a peaceful person going through life, I think maybe that is a relatively ideal state of mind or existence. That's where you'll be. Whether you're dealing with extremely thrilling experience, or whether you're going through some downtime in life, you will be largely not, just about who you are through the process, not too happy and not too depressed.
That's right. That's right. So what did you learn about yourself during COVID and your yoga experience and your equanimous experience and your equanimous awakening?
And I'm not only doing yoga, I also kind of go outside cycling, running a little bit. I love sports. I think I use sports to, for me, I use outdoor activities, getting in touch with nature as my way of seeking balance. I think seeking, both physical and mental balance. You stay relatively content. You don't feel. In other words, you don't have lots of negative emotions.
Because you live on planet Earth, you don't live on Mars. If you don't connect with the very planet that you live on, you are going to go mad. Like when I was living in New York City, I was a little crazy because there wasn't a lot of trees and there wasn't a lot of outside indoors. I was always just looking at a computer screen, going to work in the subway.
Yeah.
In China, it was the same thing. So that's why I used to always go back to Vegas for 3 months or something, a month like this, so that I could just go out into the desert. Because if you live too long in the city, you start to go crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the nature is the ultimate healing power. Nature.
Yes.
Yeah, you go. That's what you're doing, actually. I believe, right? You're going back to very, 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 very nature over there.
I'm going to let really, really basic.
Exactly.
Really, really basic.
That's like the beginning of the time, basic.
I'm living in the Garden of Eden
Yeah, look
with
at that.
internet, I'm just saying.
Yeah, with internet and the mosquitoes.
But I saw a snake this big, like the head was literally this big. There's like snakes that come up my
Are you saying?
garden.
Are you talking about those giant snakes?
Yeah, the cobra, the black cobra.
Oh my God!
And then there's the green snake. The green snake is not so bad. The green snake is actually the cobra. Put down the electricity. You remember last on Monday? Yeah, was it Monday? We were supposed to talk, and then I said electricity is going off, on and off. It
Yeah.
was because there was a cobra in the tree, and it was close to the electric pole, and it just.
Oh my God! Oh my God! So it's relatively safe out there, right?
Yeah. It's very safe. It's just that, of course, because you live in the jungle, there's cobras, there's green snakes, there's everything. You can monkeys. You'll see monkeys just climbing and bringing down coconuts.
All right, all right. Then that is called back in touch, uh, with nature. That is good. That is good. I'm not sure how long you can be living like that. I got a feeling you cannot live in there for too long. I mean, I'm talking about it for over 5 years. I'm talking about that kind of long. But I think it's always good to have a little bit alternating life experience
Yeah.
over time. That is one way to keep you engaged and interested, and become. I guess you become more. Actually you become more filled. Your heart will be more full than empty.
Yeah, I went to the mall. Like I left the island and I like took a boat and I went to the main city, the mainland, and I was so happy to see Uniqlo. Can you imagine? I mean, like Uniqlo is not.
Really, really. Okay.
It's just like, oh my God, Uniqlo. I was in a shopping mall and I was seeing people and I was like, oh my God, human beings.
Yeah. See, the thing is, I think by nature, humans are supposed to be kind of a living crowd, right? It's called a social environment. Living in a lonely state for long, or entirely lonely state, I don't think by nature it's a healthy thing to be at.
I have 180 people in the village that I live with. I say hello to them every single day. It's okay. Okay. Until
Yeah,
I'm ready to leave, I'll stay here.
sure, sure. I think you get 180 people, and actually, this 180 people probably is better than 80,000 people in New York because you actually develop connections with them.
This is what I've started to realize is that the children, like when they're not happy, when they're happy. There's a sense of community that I have never found, even in Africa growing up. No, actually in Africa when I was growing up, because it was still very ancient, We knew everybody's neighbors, all the children were safe. It's the same experience here. And I'm finding so much healing because, like, sometimes when you live in a big city, you feel so isolated, yet you're around a lot of people.
Yeah,
And
because the really the distance, what do you call that? The psychological distance or mental distance among people in modern society are actually pretty far. And although they may be friendly to each other, but they're really not connecting with each other. They have shields. They have shields of for each for themselves, and everybody is I
lonely,
guess
depressed, and suicidal. Let me tell you.
the sense of authenticity is kind of or credibility among people are just diminishing over time. Well, for leaving the village, although you guys are very different people, but I'm sure once you stay there for a while, you kind of communicate well, then they can actually become really connecting with you as a friend or somebody that you can relate to, or they would help you whenever you need, or things like that. I guess it's not so much it's just a sense of real connection, right?
It's amazing. I haven't felt this since I was like maybe 10 years old. I think the last time I remember feeling the sense of love and connection. and care for another human being, you know? And like these people care for me and they don't even know me. Not really. It's like 6 months of living in the jungle, but they
Oh,
care.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, they are authentic. They're genuine,
Yeah.
and they are basically they're kind of they're maybe simple from a lot of
Very simple.
they're
Mm.
simple. They're real. Well, in modern society, people are sophisticated, but they are fake, and including ourselves. And when we deal with modern society situations, sometimes you have this kind of certain conventions of talking, dealing with things. You don't speak up your mind. And you have to be wary of what a lot of things, right? So all of that, I'm not saying that each individually speaking, everybody is not a good person, but I think society in general is once you reach to development. I mean, so-called modern society as it develops, it actually alienate people from each other. It actually
So
distance people from each other.
how do you think, what is the remedy for this? Because we're having more and more people live. Look, this village is only 180 people. It's majority of the world are living in developed or semi-developed nations, and we're losing connection with ourselves, connection with the earth, connection with each other. What is the remedy for this problem? Because the more we lose connection, the more we are suicidal, the more we are depressed, the more, all sorts of horrible things are happening in the
I
world.
think I
Children are
think
suffering.
I think if you look at this from grand scheme, I think it's going to self fixing or self solving by eventually annihilating themselves.
Oh, what a wonderful pair. Like, you're so optimistic today. We're just going to annihilate each other. And,
No, no. The thing is, I mean, as a whole, I'm not individually. They always find a way to go through whether it's a good time or or bad time. But if you look at you say, okay, remedy. We're not talking about you and me, right? We can talk for hours. We're connecting. We're happy. We can even talk about not, a lot of things. Maybe not really meaning much in reality, but hey, we enjoy it. That's emotionally rewarding, intellectually rewarding, and that makes you as a human feeling very lively, right?
right.
But you were saying, oh, so many, nowadays lots of people are lonely. They don't connect with people. They got depressed. They want to kill themselves. Uh, if you think about it, once you entered this society, it's very hard for individual to break away from it. Not too many people can do what you do. All of a sudden, for instance, go leave Las Vegas, just go to the remote village, rural and natural. Not many people can do that. They have to be stuck with their reality, and they have to kind of continue to
Be in misery.
yeah, to pipe along with that path until a certain point. Well, so until until a certain point, I think the ultimate exit is to
Continue with your misery.
yeah, the ultimate exit is to kind of be done with this world and go to another world.
I think that's why it's important to have masterminds, to have these sorts of conversations, and to have people of like minds coming together and actually connecting. Because there's so many people who are amazing that are just so stuck in just hell. And it's like, okay, you don't have to be Tembi and go live in the jungle, but like just connecting with like minds is important.
It is important, and it has to be in a relative. I mean, if I mean, actually, the similar people better go together. And but I think the problem, even as of now, with if you look at what's happening in the world, the problem is you get people with different thinking involved with each other, right?
Okay.
And not only they got involved with each other, they actually kind of interact heavily or very closely with each other. But they have entirely different mindset, a different value system. What's going to happen over time? Over time, they are going to both think each other. The other side is nuts or is the wrong one, or or trying to get rid of. That's where things. I mean, and but the reality is, you know, there are all kinds of people. There are different cultures. There are different thinking. There, and even from a human nature, as far as I can tell, I guess some people are born with different human nature. Some kids are born naturally happy. Some kids are born, no matter how great a life you give it to him or her, they will still not be happy. It's really weird. And some kids, even they go through a tough life, but they grow up a very happy person. Why? I mean, there's no reason. I mean, I think it's just born nature, genetics, genetic design, or by the upper being. That's for that particular individual. That's the program I gave you. So you just live along with that program. Maybe you have a little variation, but largely you're going to be this kind of going to this direction. And I think by design, human race are supposed to be having conflicts, are supposed to be giving each other a hard time or making each other go nuts.
What is the point of that? If you okay, so let's talk about the grander scheme. What is the point of conflict?
I guess if you think about it if you're using an analogy for a human body, if your human body is never incurring any sort of negative even virus or other illness, your body will be not strong, right? Your body will over time become very fragile. And it is actually the mechanism having to fight some adversary that's going to kind of make you strong. But the other side of it is that sometimes maybe you are not strong enough to fight over the adversary that you get killed. But that's the double edges of the sword. But if you only have if there's no conflict, all peaceful. But I just think about it that over time, people will lose the sense of survival. The survival instinct is going to be gone.
Okay, so conflict and engaging with other people allows us to build sharper resilience.
Yeah, I would think like from a defense or the whole human immune system or society immune system. I think a reasonable amount of like tension, conflicts, just like stress, definitely is necessary. You just can you cannot leave something into a perfect environment or perfect state of existence and expect that to go forever. Because even if you keep that environment go long enough, something else is going to happen. That's something else is going to happen. That's going to, by nature, trying to disrupt all of that. Remember, we talked about the little lab rat experiment, right? The
Right.
the rats utopia. You put rats into their utopia, providing food, water, everything. They can do whatever they want. There's no natural threat from cats or from eagles. They don't have to worry about that. But after a while, basically that whole species eventually die out instead of becoming more and more or bigger and bigger.
Okay, so what is the role of emotional intelligence? Conflict is necessary in every relationship and in life.
Yeah.
Where does emotional intelligence come in? Because some people, when they are in a conflict, they just fizzle out and
So okay, now yeah, you're talking about first of all conflict and or stress. What you're getting to is what is the way to deal with them.
Right.
Right, or you call it emotional intelligence. I guess dealing with when you deal. I mean, if we have to categorize this, when we deal with any sort of emotional stress from outside, there's two way, as far as I can see, to deal with. One, you look internally, and another you look externally.
Mhm.
Right? You clearly can tell. In any given crowd, there are two kinds of people. One kind of people, they're what we consider usually, maybe we can temporarily label it as usually a strong person, meaning they don't consider themselves victims, and even though they are actually in reality victims of certain things, but they don't feel like it's because somebody is doing something. They don't constantly try to think, oh, it's because some other people are doing something bad to them, or there's nothing to do with themselves. It's all because of other people's wrongdoing. So usually strong mindset people, although they acknowledge there might be something else externally that's not in the right place, but they constantly also think about what they should do internally to deal with that more effectively or efficiently in the future. And they don't tend to have a lot of emotional scar because of that. You know, because because that's a mindset. You already know that some people out there that are going to do something you don't like, but it's up to you if you can find a way to either avoid that, or when you see it, you say, okay, I don't want to deal with it. I can leave this and avoid it, or you find a way to deal with it. Either way, it's more like you're in control kind of mentality. So when somebody is like that, they naturally they won't be like in this. They won't be feeling sorry for themselves constantly. Maybe they would feel sorry for a couple of seconds, but they are going to get over that very quickly. They are not going to stay in that kind of, emotional scar for a long time. They can recover from it. They can let it go because they are confident that they are able to kind of deal with it or get through it by their own internal strength. But there, in the crowd, on the contrary, there are another typical crowd, and there are lots of people like that, depending on how they're raised and how their natural inborn personality is. Some people, they tend to blame everything externally. I mean, I'm talking about tend to, maybe not 100%, but maybe 90%. They would say, oh, maybe 10% is my problem. It's always 90% other people's problem. Imagine if somebody truly possess that kind of a emotional feeling or sensory system, how could that person not feeling sorry or feeling bad over time?
I try to stay away from these people. They exhaust me. They just exhaust.
Oh yeah,
I can't take it. I won't take it.
oh no, even we don't want to talk about politics. If you look at so many these politicians and the way they talk, because for somebody, if somebody attacked this lady, or we're not naming names, somebody say that okay, what you're doing, maybe even if there's somebody would say something very bad or nasty or even uh, totally wrong. I mean, somebody say, oh, you're what are you doing? What are you saying is dumb. You're actually so stupid. Maybe somebody will say that to them, right? Well, for a strong lady, you can say, okay, first of all, we don't. I don't necessarily agree with you, and I don't have to agree with you. And whatever you say doesn't really mean much. Second of all, I may come back and tell you why what you're saying is stupid. That's the way to deal with it. But for those, I'm telling you, if you observe, I'm sure you have seen a lot of that. I mean, if whenever you see that, you know, okay, these are one of those people. It's like self-victimizing people. They are constantly hiding themselves among some other bogus excuse. That's in other words, I'm trying to find the right word. A perfect example, like just like the example I was talking about, the lady a politician got attacked. That instead of saying, okay, this is not what I do, this is what are you accusing or pointing is not right, or things like that, using reasoning, or even sort of a counter, uh, attacking, even, right? But what they usually say is, I think you're attacking, or what you're saying is totally disrespectful to women.
Yes. So generalizing and clumping everybody into that so that they
Exactly.
can get other women with or other people with this victim consciousness and this victim mentality
Why?
to now say,
Yeah,
we're
I,
together, our
why,
emotions count.
absolutely. Why I'm saying that? Because I mean, there are all kinds of behavior, but whenever somebody is so good at doing this, that this person is probably almost like the role model of self-victimizing person. It's almost like a typical, you know, specimen of
What
this
do they
particular.
get out of this? What do they get from being weak and pathetic and just
But no,
like,
no, but it's not about. No, you know what? Yeah, it took me a while trying to understand. What the heck? What happened to these people when they grow up? They turn out something like this. I mean, yeah. I mean, if somebody attack you, you attack. I mean, I'm not. Yeah. If you feel like what they say or do to you is wrong, at least what you can do is you do what you can to counter them, to kind of push them back, or even attack back, right? Maybe what you're doing is not right, but at least that's a normal response. But a lot of these people, they are constantly hiding behind a general population,
Yeah.
or
I think it's power in numbers, right?
yeah,
Power in numbers. So if we can all get together, we can all then sing the same sad story and with our blameologist consciousness. Hey, you're abusing me. You're hurting my feelings. Fuck
yeah,
your feelings.
yeah, and they are yanking. So the one they the what I just said is when somebody is saying things to that, then that individual would start generalizing and putting people that putting it's a literally, let me put it this way, it's a literally a brain malfunction. If you have, yeah, because this person doesn't have logic, doesn't have a typical sense of rationality, because whatever is happened to you, why is that representing the whole human race?
Yeah, what a great question.
Yeah, but why would she think she can do that? Because she knows. I think she, not necessarily because that she's entirely dumb. Actually, probably they are actually very smart in terms of manipulating this kind of narrative, because he or she knows that most of the people couldn't tell the difference, because most people, they don't have a clear logical thinking. They couldn't immediately spot where is the flaw of his kind of these narratives, or where he or she is sort of doing the misleading and the misperception. Misleading is what a politician is using all the time. They on the surface they're seemingly saying the right things, but to a point most people couldn't tell what they say is wrong. But after a few sentences, you are already being misled without you even knowing it.
Is it because the school system doesn't encourage critical thinking? Because I think when you sit down and actually, that's why I love being alone. Because when I'm alone, I don't have other people's energies, other people's thoughts. I can just sit and look at the world and go, that doesn't sound like common sense. Right? So
Absolutely.
I think the school system doesn't encourage critical thinking. Because if
Yeah,
we actually
absolutely.
sat down and actually had critical thinking, we would realize that this world is mad.
Absolutely. Critical thinking is a key word. I guess that's very sort of that's almost like a typical official word in terms of talking about the coherent thinking and the logical derivation of things from one step to another. Everything has a train of thoughts, and there is a cause and effect relationship of everything. Usually people who go through lots of critical and sort of like almost like a rigid, vigorous critical thinking, they can easily spot. They first of all, they would never talk like that, because whenever they talk like that, they would be feeling like themselves, are going crazy, because that's just not the normal mind would function. But when we hear the other person talk like that, it'd be like, "Are you nuts? Are you I mean, what the heck are you talking about?" I'll give you a perfect example. Another example. There's this. I don't want to gossip, or I don't even follow these kind of things. But a while back, there's a Johnny Depp and his
Right.
that Amber, right?
I've heard.
So I first of all, I don't follow them. I don't really know what the real story is. Maybe it's her, or maybe it's him. Whoever cares, they can care. I don't really try to have a much of an opinion towards this, until one day when I saw, after everything, the case is closed, right? I think it's a favoring Johnny Depp. Until when I saw that girl, Amber, right? And that girl Amber saying on Twitter, when I see what she said, I know, oh, at least if you call this opinion, or I'm starting to form opinion, then I know for whatever reason I think, she is probably the one that's a little bit uh, loopy, whatever in her mind. She says what? She said whatever that verdict or the final, the final verdict comes out that's favoring. I think that was favoring Johnny Depp, and she said that's exactly what the example is. She said that's a what is that? That's a disrespect, and also attack on women.
But
She
here's
just said,
okay, yeah, here's the thing. Here's the thing with that. There has been this programming that has told women that they need to marry a rich man or be with a rich man for power or money or status. So of course are looking constantly for a
yeah,
man who's going to support them, support their career, give them money, give them children, because there's a programming in women's minds
yeah,
that we as women need to go and find a man who's going to take care of us, provide for us, penetrate us, and we're going to have this perfect life with these perfect kids. Until women stop, I think, yes, the woman's, I don't think, I know, the woman's role is to nurture and love and bring up, their family. But when we are just looking at men for how much can they give me, how much can they provide, can I buy Gucci, Louis Vuitton, and all of this stuff, you are going to have a society filled with women like this with victim consciousness.
not only that, and they turn out not to be women anymore.
What does it become?
Yeah, that they turn out not to be what you just usually the typical. I'm not trying to be a sort of a sexist, right? But there
No,
is like
it's a valid conversation.
and it's like a generally or convention or at least if we could go back like 10,000 years, what a man are supposed to be like, what a woman are supposed to be like, right? I understand that as the human race continue to develop, there may be a different kind of a tendency, but that's not the majority. But in a normal, typical sense, that man has a certain kind of responsibility and has a certain kind of like mm, uh, behavior or tendency, right?
Right.
A woman, the same thing, but woman by nature is supposed to be a little bit more caring, right? A little bit more uh, soft. That of course that's I'm pretty sure this concept, if you brings up this concept to the current feminists, they're gonna go crazy. They're like, we're gonna kill you. You're the who said it? Who said women should be like what you said? You're being a sexist. That's kind of their rhetoric. That's their narrative. Because just because like 5 out of 10,000 women all of a sudden feel like they're not a woman, they're gonna say, okay, if you're saying women are like those the rest of the women, we 5 are not going to agree with that, and we're gonna say that.
I think the challenge came from women not feeling respected in their roles, right? So there's been so many women who have not felt respected in their roles of being a nurturer. So
Yeah.
Inherently, our mothers were angry or our grandmothers were angry, and they kept telling us these stories. You have to go out for yourself and fight for yourself. Yeah, I totally understand. I think women should be self-actualized, but not to a point where we have become men. I love being a feminine and wearing pink eyelashes and all that stuff. And I love engaging with men from my femininity because I can never win as a man. I don't have a fucking penis.
Right. And if you think about it, I mean, we without if we just think about those people, the person, the kind of relationship problems, right? That the lady and if you take that as an example, that I mean, I think most people can agree that's one that's just from the way they're fighting the court, you can tell how toxic that whole relationship that is, right? It's very toxic and very damaging to anybody's life involved in this process. I'm pretty sure the lady itself would feel like she's the one that's the biggest victim, that's suffering the most. But if you look at Johnny Depp, look at this poor guy. He used to be kind of a really pretty tight and also kind of pretty sharp guy. very kind of a sharp guy, but then now you look at him, he looks pretty beat, getting
Yeah, but
fat.
he had mother wounds too. So here's the thing. If you have father wounds as a woman, you are going to go and find a man who's going to fill that role of father, like the imaginary dad that you never had in childhood. And as a man, if you have mother wounds, you are going to go find a woman exactly like your mother to try and heal that stuff from childhood. So Johnny Depp's mother he said it himself, was a crazy woman. So of course he loves that flavor of crazy.
Oh,
And maybe her father was like Johnny on some level, had characteristics of Johnny, because all of this stuff is from childhood. So mother never loved me, daddy never loved me. So you all look, why do you think I married an older man? Because I didn't have a good relationship with my dad. So I was like, oh my God, look at Robert. He's a whatever. This is how life works. And that's why it doesn't work.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? It's just it's kind of like although it's not exactly like a recycling, but it's kind of like a sort of a cycling spiral. It somewhat still maintains a lot of resemblance from generations. Yeah, it's a replica of behaviors. It's a replica of behaviors, and but eventually, if you look at the topic we were talking about, emotional intelligence.
Right.
Do you think Johnny Depp's, if we have to use a case study, do you think he's got emotional intelligence here? Probably
he
not.
Probably does have a little bit of emotional intelligence, but because he didn't heal his mother never loved me wounds, my mother was abusive, she was drunk and abusive, he of course went for a woman like that because it's familiar. If as a child, that's all you ever saw. If you meet a woman who's sane, you're going to be like, oh, she's boring. Because my mother was crazy, so I need that level of crazy because that's all I know. So even if he is emotionally intelligent in some areas, that's why relationships are so tricky. You've got to heal your mother wounds and your daddy wounds and your childhood wounds. Because if you don't heal that stuff, that's where the problems start. Now you're going to go be attracted to something that's crazy because you're like, yeah, I need to fix this because I could never fix my mother. My mother was mean. I could never fix my mother, but I'm going to fix this one. And then it turns out to be how. Me too. I used to date crazy men because my dad was very abusive. And I was like, oh, yeah, that feels normal. It feels definitely normal. It's childhood wounding.
That's very true. I think especially when you go through a certain number of kind of relationships or experience, you start recognizing that pattern, and it's up really. What ultimately is the first thing to do. The first thing that needs to happen is actually for self, I guess, to recognize that, right? To know, to kind of recognize why you subconsciously make certain decisions. I think that the awakening is always about, first of all, recognizing your subconscious, not the conscious. Conscious mind, we always know, right? We know what we're thinking, but it's the subconscious mind that once you are able to see that, or to another level, you can actually sort of control that, then you're really at another level of emotional or even behavioral advancement, I would say, or another level of presence, I guess, living presence.
Yeah, that's why I really love being alone, because I can look at my own thoughts and I'm like, but like, why did I behave that way? Like, why did I say that? Why did I do that? Do you know what I mean? But like society has trained us that everything that you want is outside. But the thing is, if you don't look at your subconscious mind, your conscious mind, you're constantly making decisions from it. But if you don't actually sit down and look at your subconscious mind, you don't know why you do what you do. So you keep engaging outside, going outside, find it. And it's the same damn pattern.
Yeah, especially those things that you kind of do out of feelings, out of first response. That's usually just directly come from subconscious. How you respond, how you kind of very quickly respond, or very emotionally attached to certain things, especially those things. I think subconscious plays a huge role there. Of course, when you are dealing with a stock trading or doing some like work project, then you use your mind, right? You think. Those kind of things are not so much of subconscious, but it's all about the daily life over like a certain subconscious mind I think the effect or what it's going to do for you by your subconscious mind usually manifest over a certain period of time, like 5 or 10 years. You start truly saying, oh, why I repeatedly do things, do certain things, right?
Okay, so why is it okay? So I think that's why COVID was a beautiful experience. Yes, it wasn't like amazing for every single person, but for I think life in some crazy way allowed us to have time to look at our own subconscious mind, look at our thoughts.
Absolutely. I think I for one definitely, and I guess even midway through that, although at the beginning everybody feel because it disrupts everything, right? They disrupt a lot of things. Then after a while, you start realizing, you know what, this is not too bad. Actually, it's not only not too bad; it's actually a good thing to have, because all of a sudden you're forced to slow down and also stop to really think. Not think about all those crazy things, but really think internally and reflect internally. Get to know about yourself a little bit better. And why I was angry over a lot of things. Why I was particularly addicted to certain things. Why I like that particular girl or boys. So those kind of things start, and only when you kind of slow down or being even in by yourself, you can actually truly think about it. Otherwise, if you're busy, you're constantly on the run, you kind of just never really truly.
You're a robot. You're like on a hamster wheel.
Yeah.
You're not really so I have a thing with I mean, I work with a lot more men than I work with women, but I have this sense that men don't get together and have like bro chats and talk about these sorts of things. So men suffer by themselves. They'll be in a toxic relationship, try to fix a fucking toxic relationship instead of going, bro, this is not going to work. I gotta get out of this. And then they'll blame themselves for being a failure at not being able to fix these relationships or get out of these relationships. Why do men do these sorts of things? Why?
As a matter of fact, if you asked me these questions even half a year ago, I probably wouldn't. I probably would give you an answer, but that doesn't really mean anything. But at this particular point, I think I found the reason. I think I also know why a lot of times man and a woman, why it's so hard for them to get along.
I'm listening, all ears.
Yeah, and you know me, right? I'm kind of always like. I don't like. I remember we talked about it. I said that women are just too emotional. I hate dealing with. I like to deal with women with a little bit of rationality, at least with a bit of logic. And whenever whoever is kind of just has no sense of logic, that just drives me nuts. And I don't want to deal with. Yeah. Yeah. That remember And guess what? Over the years, for the lady who are showing around me, even at work or at any situation, if this lady come across a little bit, erratic or sporadic or has no a lack of common sense, just thinking from one point to another point without any sort of a logical step, then I want to get. I just want to. First of all, I just have no interest to engage any further. I try to stay away because I consider that's a waste of my life.
Even at work?
Yeah.
Like you've hired these people. You're a CEO. You hire. So when you join
if I hired these people later on, I found those people out. I found that if one of the ladies, for instance, if she start talking about things a few times, just has no logic or a basic train of thoughts, and she's gone. I cannot tolerate that. She's gone. Yeah, I do not care. See, that's the old me. I do not care because I was entirely taking from purely man's thinking point of view. I guess I never really tried to. I only already before I even when I was trying to understand them, I already had a conclusion in my mind. It's crazy. That's it.
That was your conclusion. They're all crazy.
I already had this conclusion in my mind is like logic is ultimate. Logic or rationality is ultimate golden rule.
Ah,
In my mind, if you think about it, that's very normal. Otherwise, I wouldn't be thinking like what I'm thinking, right?
right.
That's because I believe in that system. That's why I would never be even if I believe that system so much that I would be not so much aware of how the other system would ever work, and I would actually try to think the other system shouldn't will have a problem or all of that. Then when I engage the other system, of course, it's not going to match well with a entirely different set of human thinking system, which is called an emotional being, right? So I'm going to get back. You ask a question why men are not doing that. I think by nature, most men they don't like emotion is not exactly the word that they are so proud of, right? Or they're so.
Hold on. Repeat that. Emotion is not a word they are proud of.
Or in other words, if you don't hear lots of men telling you, "Oh, today I experienced lots of different emotions. That this emotion I'm so excited." You don't hear men talk about that, right? You hear ladies talk about that. That's what I meant, man. Even though they do have that emotion, but they are not going to proudly say, "Oh, I feel so this or that." Or I'm using this as an example. In general, I think most men hide their emotions because maybe the whole society, a different society, thinking that as a man, if you let out your emotion too much, then you're not very man. You're not very manly. So that may be one part of the reason, or maybe in general, men, by nature, men probably are more tends to are supposed to be able to hold their water, right? So or to be able to withstand things. So over time, you can imagine men are not even maybe by nature, he is probably wanting to express, but by society they're already being guided or trained not to really freely express their emotion. That's the first aspect of it. I think generally speaking. This is all generally speaking, of course, it doesn't speak about every man. Not as a crowd of men, they may go to bar, they may get excited, they may talk about, they may talk about lots of things. That doesn't mean they don't get excited, but they hide their true emotion, especially the emotions of them feeling, especially their emotions of them, they're feeling sad or feeling hurt, because men usually don't want to admit that because that's a sign of weakness. And it's a sign of it. But for women to do that, even men or women would all think that's normal because women are supposed to be doing that, right? And because women are sensual, are soft, and they feel a little hurt. And the one woman express that actually sometimes becomes more lovely or because more adorable.
But because you're going to protect me as a man when I'm sad and crying.
That's what a man would do. So a typical relation that a good man would do. Then you cannot imagine that protecting man would also display the same kind of emotional behavior. You cannot, right?
But who protects you? Who protects you as a man when you're always protecting me?
Eventually, you just have to be self-protecting. You just have to be strong and protecting yourself. At least that's how I think. At this point, honestly, that's a good question. At this point, I cannot think of anybody that I think that I'm expecting to protect me.
I protect you.
Well,
I tell you when you're in bad relationships, I'm like, friend, that one is horrible.
Yeah. But you do, right? You have the intent. You have that moment, and especially for a period of time. But what I'm talking about, like in general, daily life. Instance, right? In daily life, for instance, you, Robert, I'm pretty sure you still have this expectation that he should be more protective of you than you protective of him. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you also try to protect him when you can, right?
Right.
That's but you definitely expect him to be more protective of you because he's the man of the house.
Hmm.
Yeah, the same thing here, but I never really. I don't know about others. I am at a state of mind, or even you can call that almost like a habit, that I don't expect any woman to help to protect me.
Not even
I,
your emotions? Because, like, okay, so this the question was, so men live from this perspective of I am the protector, I am the provider. So when you're in pain and society says do not show your emotions, who do you go to for this? Why don't you go to your bro and say, hey dude, like I'm in hell right now? What happens then when you go to your friends and you talk about
I
it?
think the good thing is, for instance, I have a good friend here who is a guy. I think actually, if this time, if you do have a very close guy friend who knows you well, who you know well, basically you have to be really you if in order for you to even share some kind of emotional issue or moments, uh, that has to be somebody you're totally comfortable with and trust and know that no matter what you say or tell, that he is not going to change his view on you.
So we're afraid that if we
Yeah,
tell
and
people how we feel, they're going to change
absolutely.
their. Mm,
Any time if you're concerned about the perception of yours in other people's certain people's eyes is going to change if you tell different things, then you will not do so unless you don't care about that perception.
I think that's why men are committing suicide, especially in the Western world. That's why men are committing suicide because they feel so alone in their heads and they feel judged by society. Be a man, be strong. And
Yeah,
then nobody, you have a left brain and you have a right brain. You have two hands, two ears, two eyes. God created this for a reason. Your left brain is the logic, and that's why men live in this logic brain and
oh,
everything is
absolutely.
logic. And some women don't have the logic brain like tapped in, they all live in the right brain. All emotions, all emotions.
Oh, absolutely. And I think we're at the topic. I mean, I cannot speak anybody else, but from my experience, I felt like the moment you start expecting to get some sort of understanding from what other people, or especially when you're in an emotional distress, of course, naturally, people like to say, "Oh, only if he or she could understand me, or only if he can give me a little bit of support or understanding, wouldn't that be nice?" I think the stronger that kind of expectation is, the more disappointed or even hurt it's going to what the man is going to experience. Does that
That
make
is
sense?
amazing. I love that. I
Yeah,
love that. I think even for women, because when I look at myself when I'm in emotional distress, I'm like, no, I have a left brain and I have a right brain. My emotional brain is my right brain, and I can go all up in my feelings, but I still, God gave me a left brain. I need to use this brain to think myself out of this problem and these emotional overwhelms, right?
absolutely.
And I love what you just said because we have it all in us, the left and the right. Put it together, let it work.
Absolutely. Ultimately, it also goes back to the topic we earlier touched on. Everything's connected here. It's about the mindset of the victimization. In other words, if you don't consider yourself a victim, even though you've been hurt by other people, you would never feel too despaired or to a point you want to kill yourself. The only reason that you feel like it's like you feel like the whole world is unfair, you are being treated with entirely, injustice, or you're being mistreated, you're being betrayed, and you feel so bad for yourself. You feel like this world sucks, and I just don't want to live in it anymore. That's because you already concede you're the victim of all of that. But yeah,
What?
yeah.
I
What?
love it.
What is why? What
No,
did
I
I
just
just say?
had a moment. Like I just had like an aha moment. So you've like, okay. So you've started off with with a victim mindset, and then when there's things that happen in life to prove this victim mindset, to keep reinforcing this victim mindset, that's when you just give up. Okay, whatever. Wow, life is not fair. I'm a victim. I might as well just kill myself.
Yeah, and basically, although I know for those people who are still in this mindset, when they hear this, they probably couldn't quite comprehend what we're talking about. But I think for people who are on the borderline of this, this could be a sort of a waking up moment. All of a sudden, it's like, yeah, why do I give the power to the other side, making them like they're the one that can victimize me? For instance, if I go to a man, I'm just going to say, you know what? I think I can use my word to make you my victim. Uh, what would you think most men would respond? They were like, bullshit. Are you kidding me? Are you trying to mock at me? Are you trying to be belittling me? Most people would feel insulted because if I said that, right? If I said, oh, I'm going to use my words to turn you into, my bitch victim, like, right? That then the man, most men probably would not accept that, right? Like they probably will fight you back. But that's like a hypothetical scenario. But if you think about it, in reality, lots of men succumb to that over the life events. They just didn't realize that. In a sense, is that what I say make sense to you?
Wow. So they didn't start off that way. They just succumbed to that because of. This is interesting. I love this. Okay, continue. Continue. I like this. Continue.
Yeah. So ultimately, it's really about I, I'm speaking a lot of this just because I personally how to go through lots of emotional distress. Some of them are really really tough, and that I came out pretty all right. I know, and I know probably lots of people going through the same. They probably not come out at least not come out a very happy person or at least the general pleasant person. But when I came out, then I realized just from how I feel overall, both physically and emotionally, after I adjust my way, not so that I'm cheating myself, right? Not that like I'm being in a sort of a mode of self-deception, but actually a mode of knowing that this is not I cannot. I mean, if I'm being taken by that lot of emotional hurting, or because there are things that definitely it could be totally because of the uh, not because of you. There are people that in life are going to hurt you. There are people, whether they're intentionally or unintentionally, whether they're coming from the right place or they're ill-minded, one way or another, going through our life, you're going to deal with that, right?
Right.
So when that happens, that I realize the moment I start letting whatever scar or emotional damage that's or hurting that's leaving to me, if I let that become a sustaining or lasting impact to me, then really I give them the capability to put myself as a victim of them.
Do you want to be happy or do you want to be right? That's what I still ask myself. Do you want to be happy or do you want to be right?
Here you go. You told me this. I always remember that. I think throughout the process, that particular what you said over there definitely helped me along all this self reflection or thinking process. Not so much of a thinking, but like how you evolve, how you develop your overall sensory maybe or emotional uh, approach when you face all kinds of things. Then I I would say that I try. I know we all have moments of being upset.
Mhm.
We all. I mean, we cannot be. I often say that nobody is perfect. Although I try to be a perfectionist, but there are moments we're going to lose it, right? There are moments we are going to be angry, and there are moments we are going to have those emotions. We hate somebody, but then what I try to do is I do not let those emotions last too long, and be able to recognize when I have them and say, okay, well, uh, The only reason I have it is because, as we said, sometimes we need to have a little bit of illness in order to keep our system a little bit strong. So if we cannot, we can, I never believe somebody that's constantly in this forever happiness, no matter what happened, he or she is not going to be upset. I never believe in that, because if a person could not experience being mad, being upset, being angry as a normal emotion, then this person cannot experience other good normal emotion either, right? Or joy,
Quantumness.
yeah. So you have to have the both sides of good and bad emotion or feelings. But the point is, you just don't bury yourself or victimize yourself into any amount of them.
How do you get out? Let me ask, because like we've been friends almost 10 years now, and I keep asking the question, and you keep evolving with your mind. How do you get out in a healthy way? Before we used to go drinking. Okay, but now we don't drink.
Yeah. So
How do
yeah,
you get out?
I don't know about others. Tambi, I found out that there. Remember earlier I was talking about a woman. I don't understand logic. Well, then I said now I come to a totally different understanding. Guess who got me that? My
Your
daughter.
daughter. Mm.
I guess. I guess. Never in my life until while I'm dealing, especially with my younger daughter, who I just unconditionally love, even my older one. But there's the different situations. The older one is the older, younger one, unconditional love. I guess before that, I come to realize, yeah, why could I put up with other maybe ladies or girls if they have a moments of you know unreasonability or a moment of brain damaging or whatever, then I will be not really. I usually do not put up with that or kind of take that very well. But with my daughter, all of a sudden I realized, oh, that's because I didn't have enough love.
Oh my god.
I think that's the only reason.
You didn't have enough love for these women. You didn't have enough. Where was the love for the woman? Because you have unconditional love for your
Because
daughter.
yeah, because for my daughter, I finally realized what is called unconditional love. Meaning, whether she's whether she's treating me reasonably, nicely, or she simply ignores me over her friends, or she simply said bad things to me, that's not going to change how I treat her. Now I realized, oh, I can do this. Before that, I did not know, because before that, everything I have to have a logical reason. You have to do this so that I can be nice to you. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And
Mm.
then I realized what is the true emotion about. When the true emotion, now I finally understand. Oh, well, finally understand. They often say, well, women they don't, they don't believe in logic. They believe in emotion. You know why? Because what I noticed over time, why no matter what my daughter was doing, sometimes she was, as a teenager, there are moments she was definitely, uh, making me sort of a little, uh, sometimes also making me very sad, to be
Mm.
honest, because she would appear like she doesn't care about me.
Mm.
Even though I put my heart and my everything to her, she would appear that she doesn't care about me. Until then, when I was at my birthday, she made a little video. I'm gonna send you that video. When you see that video, you're gonna cry. I'm pretty sure, because I cried.
Oh, you cried, friend.
Yeah, at my first she said, "Daddy, I made a video to you. I'm gonna send you the video. You're gonna watch it." And while I saw the video, as I was watching it, my tears just came down.
Oh,
And
she's your
then
teacher. She's your spiritual teacher.
I realized, oh, actually, my daughter has everything in her mind and in her heart. And then I start realizing, okay, maybe girls are different from boys. They are, yes, maybe that's how God, if they're God that's making a woman different from man, they are actually they are emotional being more so than men, right?
Mm.
So before they can rationalize with you, before they are willing to listen to your reasoning or rationales, I think you have to take care of their emotional feeling first. That's what I call, especially from, look at this little girl, right? She's a typical, untainted woman by the society. She's just developing very naturally. I see her behavior, and it's because she's my daughter, so I never question her intent towards me. Well, even if she said this something that's not exactly nice to me, but I never really say, "Oh, you're trying to you're trying to be mean, or you're not trying to be nice to me."
Mm.
That's never in my mind. Why? Because I had enough love, unconditional love towards her, and then I can look beyond that and uh, try to make her really try to take care of her emotional side of it. How she feels things when she become cranky. I would kind of cuddle her, or and when she said that you go away, and I would just go away. So then, I mean, imagine in the past, if some girl or lady, even my own daughter, you go away, okay, I either don't go away, or I either don't go away, then kind of pushing for it, or I go away, I would not come back.